The steel door shook so hard it sounded like thunder. Officer Daniel Reed froze as the narrow window in the door went dark. Someone was standing on the other side. But no one was supposed to be out at this hour. Not in Police Bay. Not in the harshest isolation unit in all of America. Not in the place where inmates were locked alone for 23 hours a day, where even whispers felt dangerous. Daniel's flashlight flickered once, and then the lights in the whole hallway died. Pitch black. He could hear slow breathing behind the door. Heavy. Calm. Wrong. Then a voice spoke from the darkness. "I told you I'd get out." Daniel's heart slammed. The voice was deep, steady, the voice of Malik Turner, the prisoner no one believed could escape his cell. The prisoner the whole prison feared. The prisoner who once said he would walk out of Police Bay alive, even if he had to rip the walls open to do it. A cold scrape of metal slid across the door. Keys. Keys that Malik should never have. Daniel stepped back, trembling, as he heard the click of the lock turning, slowly, painfully slowly, like Malik wanted him to listen. The door began to open. Just an inch. Then two. Daniel lifted his radio, but it was dead. Malik's shadow stretched across the floor. And at that exact moment, before Daniel could even breathe, a siren exploded through the prison. A prison-wide breakout alarm. Then the hallway lights blasted back on. And standing behind Daniel was someone else entirely. But before Daniel could turn around, a hand grabbed his shoulder. And everything went white. Daniel Reed's first day at Copper Ridge Supermax had been strange from the moment he stepped through the gates. The huge gray building sat far away in the Colorado desert, surrounded by high fences topped with razor wire that glittered like teeth. Guards didn't smile here. Birds didn't fly here. It felt like the sky itself avoided this place. Daniel had worked in smaller prisons before, but nothing like this. Copper Ridge was different. It was built to hold the inmates no other prison could control. You didn't come here unless you were the worst of the worst, or unless the government believed you were too dangerous to even talk to another human being. But inside Copper Ridge was a place even the guards whispered about, Police Bay. A secret block. A hidden area. A place used for the inmates so dangerous that regular isolation wasn't enough. Nobody told Daniel much about it during training. Only a few officers were allowed to patrol it. And somehow, on his third day, he was assigned to work inside. The hallway leading to Police Bay was quiet. Too quiet. Daniel felt like he was walking into a deep cave. The air was cold and thick. All around him were steel doors with tiny black windows. He knew that behind each one sat a prisoner alone, watched by cameras, fed by machines, and spoken to only when absolutely needed. No talking to inmates, Officer Hill had warned him earlier that morning. No answering their questions. No asking them anything. No matter what they say. Daniel had nodded, even though he didn't fully understand why. He understood after meeting the first prisoner. The man inside cell 118 smiled at him with a grin that seemed too big for his face. His eyes never blinked. His voice drifted out like smoke. "Do you dream at night, Officer Reed?" Daniel had walked away fast. Police Bay felt like a place that wanted to swallow his thoughts whole. The most feared inmate inside Police Bay was Malik Turner. Nobody knew how he always stayed calm. Nobody understood how he figured things out without hearing anything. Some guards believed Malik could listen through the walls. Others said he remembered every sound, every footstep, every breath. Daniel had seen Malik only once, through the thick glass window in the control room. Malik sat perfectly still, his hands resting on his knees, staring straight into the camera like he could see the person watching him. Daniel had looked away first. The days were long, and the nights were worse. The hum of the fluorescent lights made Daniel's head ache. The silence pressed on him until he felt like yelling just to break it. But he tried to do his job well. He checked doors. He logged reports. He keyed in codes to the steel gates. He learned not to jump whenever someone banged on their door from inside their cell. Police Bay was strict. Every movement mattered. Every second was monitored. But even then, Daniel sometimes saw little things that didn't make sense. A door left slightly open that was supposed to be locked. A camera that flickered even after being fixed. A strange smell like burning plastic coming from a vent. Papers missing from the desk in the control room. He tried to ask Officer Hill once, "Is something wrong with the building?" Hill had stared at him and said, "Don't ask questions in Police Bay. Ever." So Daniel kept quiet. But everything changed on his 7th night. It started small, barely anything at all. He was walking his usual route when he heard something strange. It wasn't yelling. It wasn't banging. It was worse. It was whispering. Soft, slow whispering coming from cell 132. Malik Turner's cell. Daniel's stomach tightened. He froze. He listened. 3 hours, the whisper said. 3 hours until the lights go out. Daniel felt the hair on his arms rise. He stepped closer. The voice wasn't coming from inside the cell. It was coming from the intercom speaker above it. A speaker that wasn't supposed to work both ways. Daniel checked the control panel. Everything looked normal. No buttons were pressed. No switches flipped. The whisper came again, this time softer. Officer Reed, you should not be here when it happens. Daniel stepped back quickly, almost tripping over his own feet. He pressed the emergency call button on his radio, but before he could say anything, the radio cut out. Static. Silence. He hurried to the control room, but no one was there. The chair was pushed back. A cup of coffee sat on the desk, still warm. That wasn't right. Someone had left seconds ago. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Maybe someone was doing a test. Maybe there had been a power problem. Maybe. Then the lights flickered. Once. Twice. 3 times. Exactly 3. Daniel remembered Malik's whisper. 3 hours until the lights go out. His hands began to shake. He needed to tell someone. Anyone. He rushed down the hallway toward the main gate, only to find it locked. He keyed in the code, but the panel blinked red. Access denied. What do you mean, access denied? Daniel whispered. He tried again. Red. Again. Red. His heart pounded. He hit the panel with his fist. Nothing. Then, behind him, came a long, slow creaking sound. A steel door somewhere deep inside Police Bay had just opened. But no doors were scheduled to open. Not at this hour. Not without several officers present. Daniel turned around, his breath shaking. The hallway behind him looked longer than usual. The shadows looked darker than before. Every cell door felt like it was watching him. He walked slowly, each step echoing loudly. Creak. Creak. The sound came from deeper inside the block. Maybe someone had left a maintenance door open. Maybe another guard had entered and forgotten to close it. He told himself that again and again, but his legs still felt weak. Then he reached the center hallway. And stopped. The door to cell 132, Malik Turner's cell, was open an inch. Just an inch. But that was impossible. That door had 5 locks. It could only be opened by 2 guards turning keys at the same time. It had never opened in all the years Malik had been here. Daniel stepped closer. There was no sound inside. No movement. No breathing. Just darkness. He swallowed. Malik, he whispered, even though he knew he shouldn't speak to inmates. He raised his flashlight to look through the gap. And that was when the lights suddenly died. Everything went black. His flashlight flickered. And flickered again. Then it turned off completely. Daniel's heartbeat echoed in his ears. He took one small step back. Then he heard it. Breathing. Slow. Calm. Coming from right behind the door. Daniel froze. Then the voice came through the darkness, deep and steady. I told you I'd get out. Daniel stumbled backward, shaking so hard he dropped his flashlight. Then, a hand touched his shoulder. He gasped and spun around, and stared straight into the face of the person standing behind him. Daniel's breath caught in his throat as he stared into the face of the person standing behind him. For one terrifying second, he thought it was Malik, the dangerous inmate who should still be locked inside cell 132. But it wasn't Malik. It was Officer Hill. Hill's face was pale, his eyes wide, as if he had just seen something that made his soul shiver. He grabbed Daniel's arm and whispered sharply, "Why are you standing here alone? Do you have any idea what's happening right now?" Daniel tried to speak, but his voice came out as air. He pointed toward Malik's cell door, cracked open in the darkness. "He's out," Daniel whispered. "Hill, his door is open." Hill's jaw clenched tight. "I know." Those 2 words made Daniel's skin crawl. Hill wasn't surprised. He wasn't confused. He wasn't even scared. He already knew. The power suddenly surged back on with a loud boom, and the hallway lights blasted them with brightness. Daniel blinked, trying to adjust, and when he looked at Malik's door again, his heart nearly stopped. The cell was empty. The bed. The floor. The walls. No inmate. No Malik Turner. Nothing. Where is he? Daniel gasped. Hill didn't answer right away. Instead, he grabbed Daniel by the shirt collar and pulled him away from the door. We need to leave the hallway. Now. Daniel's legs struggled to keep up as Hill dragged him toward the security office at the end of the block. The lights flickered again, but this time only for a second. The buzzing sound in the ceiling vents grew louder, like electricity had crawled inside the walls and was searching for something. Or someone. When they reached the office, Hill slammed the door shut behind them and locked it. The room was small, filled with screens that showed every camera inside Police Bay. But half the monitors were still dark. "Sit down," Hill said. Daniel didn't move. "Hill, what's going on? How could Malik's door?" Hill raised a hand. "You're asking the wrong questions." Daniel swallowed. "What's the right question?" Hill stared at him for a long second. Then he said quietly, "How did Malik get your name?" Daniel felt like all the air left his body. "What?" Hill stepped closer. "He said your name over the intercom, didn't he? Whispered it to you." Daniel felt himself trembling. How did you know that?" Hill rubbed his forehead. "Because he did the same thing to me. 2 years ago." Daniel felt dizzy. He sat down slowly. Hill continued, "It starts with whispers. Always whispers first. Then the cameras go down. Then the locks fail. Then the lights flicker. Then," he looked at Daniel with tired eyes, "then someone ends up dead." Daniel's hands shook in his lap. "So why didn't anyone tell me this? Why did they put me in here without warning?" Hill leaned close. "Because if we told new guards what really happens inside Police Bay, nobody would take the job." He turned to the screens and tapped on the dark monitors. "Look. These are the cells from the East Row. Every one of them just went offline. That doesn't happen on accident." Daniel's chest tightened. "Is Malik doing this?" Hill didn't respond. Instead, he typed a code into the system. The remaining monitors flickered, showing grainy footage. Daniel could see empty hallways, sealed doors, and the flickering lights overhead. Then, on camera 9, something moved. A shadow. Walking slowly. The camera followed the shape as it stopped in front of cell 130. A hand reached out, and the door suddenly clicked open. Daniel leaned forward. "How is he doing that? The door's only open from the control room." Hill watched silently.